Okay, lesson 6.3, we're going to learn about secant, cosecant this week. What do they look like? Why do they look like they do? And you're going to learn a new term, vertical asymptotes, which we talked about asymptotes in chapter 1, but most of the functions that we have encountered up to this point really don't have asymptotes, so you'll see what they are, where they occur, and why you get vertical asymptotes. And here we go. So what do we already know about cosecant and secant? We know that cosecant is the reciprocal, and that's the key word for sure, reciprocal of sine. And secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So there's a couple ways you could think of cosecant. The first way, if the definition of sine is opposite over hypotenuse, then cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. That's one way to think of it. And then quite literally, if it is the reciprocal of sine, if you flip this upside down, you get 1 over sine. So those are two ways you could think of cosecant. And then similarly, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So you could think of it like that, or you could think of it like 1 over cosine. And if you guys remember right before break, this is how you have to enter it on a calculator anyway, since most calculators don't have a cosecant or a secant button. So down here what you're looking at is the graph of sine, and it's not a coincidence that the graph of sine is related to the graph of cosecant. So in order to understand why cosecant looks like it does, we'll take another look at sine. So for the graph of sine, remember all these values come from the unit circle. At 0 degrees, the value of sine is 0. At 30 degrees, the value of sine is 1/2. You could get these values from, 30 degrees, value of sine is 1/2. You could get these same values from the unit circle. At 60 degrees, the value of sine is close to 1. And if you look at the unit circle, it's radical 3 over 2. We're going to skip that one because it's an ugly decimal, but we don't really need it. 90. At 90 degrees, the value of sine is 1. And I'm picking values that are going to be easy to reciprocate. I don't know if that's a real verb, but I just made it up if it's not. I'm going to skip 120 because that's also radical 3 over 2. 150, the value of sine is 1/2. 150, 1/2. And then at 180, it is 0. I'm going to do one full cycle of sine, by the way. 210, the value of sine is negative 1/2. 210, negative 1/2. At 240, it's negative radical 3 over 2. I'm skipping that one. At 270, you get negative 1. At 300, it's negative radical 3 over 2, but I'm going to skip that. At 330, it's negative 1/2. And then all the way back at 360, and that's one full cycle, back to 0. 360 degrees, back to 0. Hopefully the video is paused. Hey Michelle, I'm on a video, okay? I'm doing a video. Oh, okay, hopefully that paused. So, the graph of cosecant, that's what we're going to do now. I don't know why there's 3 columns, but we'll start off with 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 90 degrees, 150. I'm just copying those values. Again, we're going to do one full cycle. 210, 270, 330, whoops, and 360. So again, the key word here is reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 0 is 1 over 0. And you learned in 4th grade you can't divide by 0, so it's undefined. At 30 degrees, reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1, or just 2. At 90 degrees, the reciprocal of 1 is still 1. At 150, reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1 again, or just 2. And at 180, you get 0, and the reciprocal of 0 is 1 over 0. I probably should have written that up there, 1 over 0, which is undefined. 1 over 0. At 210, the reciprocal of negative 1/2 is negative 2 over 1, or just negative 2. At 270, the reciprocal of negative 1 is negative 1 still, and so forth. And again at 360 you get 1 over 0 for the reciprocal of 0, and that is undefined. So every time we get undefined, that is where a vertical asymptote will occur. So that addresses that main question. And then why does it occur is because you can't divide by 0. So where does it occur? Whenever you are trying to divide by 0. Why does it occur? Because you can't divide by 0. So that's one new feature. Now I'm just going to graph the points that I can graph. So 30 and 2, 90 and 1, 150 and 2, 180. So you get a vertical asymptote here at 0 degrees and at 180 degrees. So I'm going to add that in with a yellow highlighter. Vertical asymptote here and at 180. Like that. And we also get one at 360. Okay. And I'm going to keep on going. I think I was at 210. The reciprocal, or the value of cosecant at 210 is negative 2. Right there. At 270, negative 1, which is right there. And at 330, negative 2, which is right there. Just FYI, at 60 degrees, 120, and 240, and 300 degrees, the reciprocal of radical 3 over 2 is 2 over radical 3. And then 2 over radical 3, it's barely above 1. So barely above 1. So when you graph cosecant, it looks like this. It comes down real low. Kind of looks like a parabola, but it's more of a horseshoe shape. And then you get this part down here. Voila. And that is what cosecant looks like. Now let's talk about vertical asymptotes again. What it means is that function will never touch this line here. So be careful when you're graphing. You don't, like, that's pushing it. I came out a little bit too wide there. Voila. It's a think of vertical asymptote as like a barrier that you can't touch. What else? Oh, yeah, one cycle. So from here to here is one cycle, and if you recall, cycle comes from the word circle, and if you think about the unit circle in particular, there's 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna call it 4 parts. Well, a cycle of sine or cosine or whatever the function is always has 4 parts. From here to here is part 1. From there to there is part 2. From here to there is part 3. There to there is part 4. 4 parts make a cycle. And the same thing is going to be true for secant, cosecant, tangent, cotangent. So here's how I usually count the parts. I'm going to call that part 1. From here to there is part 2, part 3, part 4. So if we ask you to graph one cycle of secant or cosecant, that's what we're looking for. Basically 2 horseshoe-shaped graphs. We're already at the 12-minute mark. I'm going to pause, make a new video for secant.